SBR Videos is sponsored by Sports Cash System. Click on the link below for more information. Hi, welcome to SBR Forum Videos. I'm Peter Loshak, and it's Monday afternoon right now, the Monday after Week 14. So we're doing our usual opening line show with Joe Duffy from OffshoreInsiders.com. We're looking ahead to NFL Week 15 right now, and Joe Duffy, of course, he gave us only one pick last week, the Thursday night game, nailed it, brings us 24-11 against the spread in our free picks videos this year overall in the NFL. Thanks, Joe, for being back with us.
Thank you, Peter.
All right. Before we get into these opening lines, give a quick plug for OffshoreInsiders.com. Tell us how things have been going this year.
Yeah, well, I know we talk all about football, but we're in the heart of basketball season. Finally, we're adjusting to the rule changes, and a lot of the scheduling dichotomies that we exploit in the NBA for years are applying more and more as the season goes on. So we pick all the sports. Joe Duffy's picks at OffshoreInsiders.com, been making picks public since 1988.
All right, Week 15 opening lines. There's actually a lot of interesting lines this week, and I want to get your take on them. There's two lines in particular that I'm sure are going to be overwhelming public sides. You probably already know what I'm going to say. It's KC minus 3.5 or 4 at Oakland, and then the Pats at Miami. Let's start with KC. You know, last week, so funny. You know, KC was a similarly lined road favorite at Washington, and a lot of people, including myself, surmised that, Washington would be a sharp side and maybe they had some value. Obviously, in retrospect, that was completely wrong. And at SBR, it's so funny. All these people are starting all these threads talking about how, like, all the faux sharps who said Washington had value, were completely wrong. Don't overthink yourselves. The point is that, obviously, KC is going to be a huge public play here, right?
You are 100% correct. I told you I have some metrics that I use, and this is early on. It does say it's going to be one of the strongest public plays of the year. Whether or not it's exactly like Washington, I think, Washington in hindsight looks like they're in that team that's in total disarray. I don't know if that's true about Oakland, but again, we 100% agree that will be the biggest public play this week.
I mean, look, at SBR, everyone was saying, last week, all the people who thought Washington had value were fake sharps. And now I think I'm like a super fake sharp because I'm looking at this. I'm thinking it again. I'm thinking probably Oakland is the right side here. You think Oakland might wind up being a sharp side this week again?
No, I don't think so. But remember, the public, and you're the one who said that, it is mostly public opinion on SBR Forum. I believe I'm quoting you correctly.
No.
And again, what do I always tell you? The public loves road favorites. But if they were saying this beforehand, that's one thing. After the fact,
there were. No.
expert.
There was a lot of threads on SBR with people saying, like, I can't believe how low this line is. And to their credit, they were completely right. A lot of people saying, there was one guy who said, if KC doesn't cover, I'm going to stop betting football forever. There were a lot, and this was all before the game.
No, that's good stuff. It's good stuff, and they were 100% right. But like I said, as a general rule of thumb, if road favorites are covering, the bookmakers are getting hurt.
And last week, I did talk to Brent from BetDSI, and Washington was a sharp side. Do you think the sharps are going to come in on Oakland again this week?
Yeah, well, I got to be honest with you. As I said, I didn't have a phenomenal weekend, didn't have a terrible weekend. I did have Washington as the sharps. Now, sharp sides don't always win,
right?
And the public, bad public plays don't always lose. The sharps are only going to hit in the upper 50%. No, I don't think necessarily it will be as overwhelming as a sharp play on Oakland as it was Washington last week. But I do think if there is a big sharp versus square dichotomy, it will be in this game. I'm sorry, a sharp versus the public dichotomy, right. And no question, the public will be on Kansas City, and I would say about 55% sure that the sharps will be on Oakland.
All right, interesting, Joe. I have to admit, I'm still leaning towards the home dog there, but we'll see where this line moves. And the second pick, that's obviously going to be huge public side, New England minus 2.5 against Miami. Was anyone shocked with what happened last week? They got a little help from the refs, probably, undeniably, but they came back, they got the comfort behind win. The public saw that. Here they are, just 2.5, as a road favorite at Miami. New England's going to be a huge public play, right?
Yeah, but believe it or not, my metrics didn't scream out quite as much on that game as a definite public play. Keep in mind, the public is very well aware that Rob Gronkowski, big injury, when he came back to the offense, it became obvious that Tom Brady was so much more comfortable. Now he is out for the year. And also keep in mind, again, where you asked about public, but keep in mind one of those sharp angles. Like I've said, it's actually tougher for cold weather teams to go to warm weather. We're recording this on Monday, but the long-range forecast says it could be in the mid-80s in Miami on Sunday. So I would say, yeah, the public, again, as I always say, The public's almost always going to bet the road favorite. So New England will be a public play, but I don't know if it's going to be as overwhelming as you think.
Then the next line that's very interesting to me, Seattle -7 at the Giants, right? The Giants got blown out at San Diego. Their season is basically done now. Seattle's off the close loss at San Francisco. Now I have to assume that the public, if they touch this game, is going to be all over Seattle, even at -7. The Giants just look like they're done. I could see the Giants though, being a sharp side here, at +7. I don't know. One thing that I'm happy about though is that Stephen O from EventDataServices.com has given us a winner for 5 weeks in a row since he started giving us his premium picks. Pick this game. So I think that there is going to be some value one way or another on this game. What do you think the action might be?
No, this is another one of those cases where the early metrics don't scream the obvious that the public is going to be jumping on the road favorite. Keep in mind that Seattle, they're making that cross-country trip. And Seattle and New Orleans, both of these teams have been so incredible at home. It's not so much that they haven't been good at on the road, but they've been so incredible at home that their overall value skyrockets, and it's tough to get a good price on them on the road. Seattle, like the Saints, not quite as dominant on the road as they are at home. So I do think that there's a good possibility at some sharp money coming in on the home underdog, especially if it's at 7.
All right, then the other game that's interesting is San Francisco at Tampa Bay, right? San Francisco, of course, they got their big win against Seattle, and Tampa Bay, they rolled Buffalo. Will they be able to do it again? Mike Glennon, a quarterback, we would expect him to be a little bit inconsistent as a rookie, but I could easily see Tampa Bay being a sharp side this week, and I'm assuming San Francisco will probably be a public side as well.
Yeah, no question about Tampa Bay possibly being a sharp play because they have been playing so much better since the quarterback switch. Not so much that Mike Glennon is tremendous, but I think we're seeing how awful the quarterback Freeman was and how much he damaged that, and his terrible attitude really damaged the entire team. So Tampa Bay, I believe they are for real. They are a much better team as of late. I do think the sharp money will be there, and as far as the public money, again, we're talking about a road favorite and a very good team. San Francisco's been a public team with the way they played the past several years. So I would agree there that sharp money probably on the home underdog, and as almost always, the public money will be on the road favorite.
All right, and then another game that I'm sure is going to take a lot of public action, a lot of games this week that we're getting to, specifically Philly at Minnesota, right? Philly's -4, totals 51.5, and the Minnesota game against Baltimore went way over, and the Philly game against Detroit did wind up going over the closing line despite the terrible conditions. So in light of that, the public saw that 51.5. I have to assume that the over is going to be a huge play here, at least as far as the public is concerned. Probably they'll bet Philly -4 as well.
Yeah, no, this is, according to my metrics, this is the second biggest public play on the week on Philadelphia, and really lost in the fact that the Eagles had that home losing streak, which is long gone, now becoming a distant memory. And so over the last 2 years, they've played pretty well on the road. Of course, sharps and the public will be keeping a very close eye on Adrian Peterson's status.
Right.
I know he's supposed to be, I believe it's today, he's going to get an MRI or medical examination. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? But especially if Peterson is not playing for Minnesota the way Philadelphia has been playing, and Nick Foles, how much, you can't keep saying it's a fluke. He's doing it week in, week out. I know the original perception was that he was just not made for Chip Kelly's offense because he's not a very mobile quarterback. Well, you can forget about that. He's been fantastic. And yeah, I do definitely think that this will be the second strongest public play of the week. And as soon as if Adrian Peterson isn't playing, the line will certainly go up.
All right, and then one other game that I want to get to, an interesting line, again, I think might have some interesting action. Buffalo at Jacksonville, right? Jacksonville's a 2-point home underdog. They've now won 4 out of the last 5, and Buffalo is one of these teams that looks like their bubble is basically burst on the year. So I'm thinking, first of all, Jacksonville might be a big public play here, right, as a home underdog. And second of all, is it actually possible that Jacksonville could actually maybe even come into this game a little bit complacent, and a little bit high on themselves after winning 4 out of 5 and playing a team that's in a tailspin like Buffalo?
No, I don't think that's a worry at all. And I know, again, will MJD play? He's also on the injured list. We don't know what his status is going to be. He claims he was definitely going to play, but we'll see what the doctors say about that. But no, when a team has nothing else to play for other than pride, and they're playing well, they generally become good plays. And keep in mind, this also, depending on what the weather turns out to be, this could be yet another case of a cold weather team heading to warm weather. The forecast for Florida this weekend, it is supposed to be hot. It's long range forecast, but as it gets closer to game time, again, it's the cold weather teams are more affected by going to warm weather cities than vice versa. And if it is expected to be in the 80s, I would expect that Jacksonville will be a sharp play.
And it might be a public play as well, right? Because, the public is going to see they've won 4 out of the last 5, right?
No, you're correct. And although, we talk about road favorites, it's generally quality teams are road favorites.
Right.
Buffalo doesn't fit that criterion. It's just that Jacksonville, or, just a few weeks ago, was considered a laughingstock. Now, much like Tampa Bay, they're all of a sudden competitive. So, no, this does not fit into the theory of just automatically assume the public's going to bet the road favorite. So I think if the public is ever going to bet on a home underdog, this would definitely be it.
All right, so this might be a candidate for the biggest line mover of the week, right? Could easily see Jacksonville closing as a favorite, right?
Yeah, and especially if MJD is going to play, I would say that this game could go down to a pick. Maybe Jacksonville the favorite, but if MJD is ruled out, I would doubt if the Jaguars would be a favorite.
All right, well, great call, Joe Duffy. Those are all the individual lines that I wanted to make sure we got to. Is there anything else from the rest of the card that has caught your eye for any reason?
Now, I think the only other, what my metrics does say will be a public play, will be Indianapolis, and no surprise there is, Houston, talk about a team in disarray, but be careful, public, because the new coach theory, anytime a team fires a coach in the middle of the season, it seems to be a wake-up call. It almost always works short-term. So warn the public against blindly betting on Indianapolis. And, with a possible sharp play would be on Baltimore. Dennis Pitta is back for Baltimore. He's a very key part of that offense. He's got a game under his belt. So I would expect some sharp money on Baltimore and maybe some public money on Indianapolis. But be careful, public, on that Colts bet.
All right, both those lines are currently the home team -6, Indy -6, and Baltimore on the road +6. All right, great call once again, Joe Duffy from OffshoreInsiders.com. Thanks so much.